because I'm descended from this black sheep. So we were all cut off. And cut off means flight from working out your emotional problems. So cut off is a very important word. Some of you have cut off from your family. You can't deal with them. You're not solving the problems. And so you cut off. That's called emotional cutoff. I mean, when somebody moves 3,000 miles away, that's a cutoff. That is a cutoff. And why do they leave? I will tell you why this woman left. She felt rejected. She felt disapproved of. She felt condemned and no love. My father, when I asked him, he said in all his life, Mama, meaning his mother, had never put her arms around him and hugged him and said, "Son, I love you." Never once in all his memory. Where did all this rage come from? Where do you think it came from? In the family. It's being passed down. This is called the multi-generational transmission process, where all this garbage gets projected onto each generation. Was she allowed to vent her anger at that man? No, she stuffed it. But she saved every bit. And guess where it ended up being vented? On the children that she loved in her way. Do you think she loved her kids? Yes, but she was a raving maniac. I'm going to save you if it kills you. This was a raging woman whose rage came down from generation to generation. Now, my dad, was he allowed to express that rage? Was he allowed to own his feelings? Was he allowed to say, I don't agree, I don't like this, I want to be what I want to be, I don't want to go to here, to this church, and I don't want to believe this party. I want to do what I want to do. And I don't want to do what you want me to do. I want to do what I want to do. This became the issue of his life, and he became a rebel. All right, so what he did, he started in his game. And the game was this: you can't make me do it. And she said, oh, yes, I can. And so he was drinking when he was 5 years old and smoking out behind the barn and doing everything Grandma didn't want him to do. So he developed the role of the rebel. And an addiction is when you start to lose your choices. You don't have any control over this thing. And so he got to be an alcoholic. So he was drinking and smoking, got married real early, had a son, had a divorce, married my mother, who was 18, all right? And then they started having children. So Jack marries Ruth. Now, what kind of a woman is going to be attracted to a man like that? We say that we always marry at the level of our own dysfunction. So you marry somebody as goofy as you are. You see, we can become addicted to crisis. We can become addicted to drama. It's a game. If there's not crisis going on, if he can't stir it up and mess everything up, he is not happy. And his whole life has become a game. I tell you, I don't know if I know my dad. It was always a contest. It was always a game. And then I kept getting had. Because that was what he learned as a little boy. Catch me if you can. Do you see how the rage and the dysfunction passes from generation to generation? Where's anybody ever telling anybody, I love you? Where's anybody ever gentle and kind and meek with somebody? Where's there any love? Okay, here comes my mother waltzing down the street. And she thinks this guy is absolutely wonderful. Because guess where Mama came from? Mama's mom and dad fought continually. Grandma, on my mother's side, never submitted to Grandpa's authority. And they fought and fussed for years and years and years. They were never happy. And the kids showed that. And what Grandma did, and Grandpa, they started having a lot of kids. There was like 7 or 8 kids, I guess. And my mother was fortunate enough to be the oldest girl. So guess what that meant? She was what we call parentalized at about 5 years old. She can't hardly remember a time when she didn't have a little baby in her arms. How long did it take her to decide she was going to get married and get out of there? And when she saw my dad, could she feel comfortable? Was she right at home? Did he need her? Oh, this is a match made in heaven. Okay, they'll go crazy, but at least this codependency is going to work. It's a beautiful relationship. And then we'll raise some kids, and they'll all be goofy. All right? And then how does that... Oh, that sounds beautiful. That sounds wonderful. And we'll never get help. We'll never, never, never get help. We don't need help. We'll stay like this forever and ever. That's a codependency relationship. An addict and a codependent. And it worked out just that way. You see, basically, what we need to hear when we're little kids, when we're teeny, is that Mom loves you. I love you. These are some good messages that we need to get. They're mom and dad messages. You don't need to hear you're stupid. You don't need to hear you're not wanted. You don't need to hear don't exist. You don't need to hear why don't you act like your brother. You don't need to hear that. You see, when a mother and a father are healthy and they're working together on their marriage and they both have needs and they're meeting each other's needs, emotional needs, then they're okay. And then they can address the needs of their child because their own needs are being met. John Bradshaw has a very good book called The Family, which I hope you all get. And in that book, he's got these people like this. There's these people. And inside these people is another little people. Now what we've got here inside this mother is a little child that is needy. This child never had her emotional needs met. This little child in you, and we've all got a child in you, this child has needs to be loved, to be held, to be validated as being important, to be treasured, to be cherished. And when that doesn't happen, we seek in other ways to get these needs met. Now, if that mother is 30 years old, but she's only 5 years old emotionally, or 4 years old emotionally, or emotionally deprived as a child herself, she will not be able to answer the needs of this child. She can't respond to the needs of this child. And then this child who wants love is being used by the parent to suit the parent's needs. This is called triangulation. Mom is here and dad is here. And they have what we call a dysfunctional relationship. A contentual, dysfunctional relationship. And a lot of energy was spent fighting and quarreling and jockeying for position. So when they have all this, they're so engrossed in each other that they don't have any energy. They don't have any feeling to take care of the needs of this child.